it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the part of the world where maps can sometimes lie. Now, before the story begins, before the first shot is fired or the first name is spoken into the cold, there's only the steppe. Wide, indifferent, endless. Kazakhstan stretches like an old scar across the earth, a place of brutal wind and ancient silence, where mountains rise without apology and valleys swallow sound. People disappear out here, not in the dramatic way, not with headlines, they're just gone. A patrol that never checks in, a research team that stops answering, a set of footprints that lead into snow and do not head back out. Well, the locals have stories, of course, they always do. Shepherds speak quietly about cursed salt caves in the Tian Shan foothills, about rock that remembers, about places where grief doesn't fade, it just hardens. Soviet-era files hint at operations buried so deep even the government forgot what it was looking for. Old men in border towns mention a valley no one returns from, then change the subject as if the air itself is listening. Well, most people laugh at that until the military sends you there. Till you stand at the mouth of a mountain that feels just plain wrong, holding orders that don't explain enough, breathing air that tastes faintly of minerals and something older. Until you hear your own voice echo back strangely. Until you realize time can misbehave in places like this. This is not a story about monsters in the dark, well, not really. No, this is a story about what we drag behind us, the dread we refuse to bury, the love that becomes obsession, the memory that sharpens into a weapon. Somewhere in Kazakhstan, deep under snow and stone, something has been preserving loss for a very long time. And one soldier, one daughter, is about to find out what forever costs. So turn the pages carefully, because once you enter the mountain, it may not let you leave the same way you came in. Marine Mission to Kazakhstan by Augustus Cordoba. Part 1. Don't look at the salt. That was the last clean order Command managed to spit out before the radios choked and went dead. Too late for me. I'd already seen what it did. My name is Corporal Yuki Tanaka. 2 hours earlier, I'd been walking a routine patrol line through the Kazakh mountains, boots crunching over ice, my rifle steady, my mind numb with repetition. Now I was standing in a killing field of 19 dead Marines. Dead Marines who were somehow still moving around our base like they hadn't gotten the memo. The salt had showed up at 0500. Not in bags, not in piles. No, it just spread. White crystals crawling over the frozen ground like a disease, blooming outward in slow, hungry veins. The earth didn't reject it. The mountain didn't fight it. It just accepted it. Where it brushed my boots, the leather started to rot and melt like acid eating through skin. Where it touched Private Morrison's hand, well, we didn't talk about Morrison's hand. The bodies were laid out in circles in front of us. Perfect circles. Not sloppy, not rushed. Arranged. I saw every face through my scope and felt my stomach drop with each one. Oh, Kumar, Jones, Rodriguez. My squad, my brothers. Well, except Kumar was standing right beside me, breathing fog into the bitter air like nothing was wrong. Jones was back at Horizon Base, probably shoveling powdered eggs into his mouth, complaining about the cold. So, who the hell were these corpses wearing their faces? It was then the salt started writing. I watched it shift, crystal by crystal, like a million insects obeying some silent command. Letters formed with patient precision across the ice. Well, we were never the first, Tanaka. Lieutenant Colonel Raza's voice slammed through the radio static. But it wasn't right. I mean, his words came twisted, reversed, like someone had taken his mouth and turned it inside out. Don't trust what you see. Don't trust what you... The transmission died. The mountains went quiet. In that silence, new words crawled into existence in the salt. Neither are you. Well, that was when the truth hit me. the kind of truth that locked your muscles up and turned your trigger finger to stone. I stared at the 19th body, and I knew her. It was me. Corporal Yuki Tanaka pressed her father's Omamori charm between her fingers, feeling the worn silk through her tactical gloves. The small Japanese protection amulet was the only thing she carried that wasn't regulation. Command didn't need to know. Forward operating base Horizon clung to the mountainside like a metal scab. Prefab buildings huddled together against the wind at 4,200 meters, where the air came thin and sharp and every breath felt borrowed. Tanaka had been here 8 months, long enough to memorize every ridgeline, every shadow that didn't belong, every way the wind screamed through the valleys, long enough to know when something was off. Oh, she hadn't slept right in weeks. Specialist Kumar stepped up beside her on the observation deck, his breath blooming white in the pre-dawn dark. He, can't sleep either? He asked. Tanaka didn't bother lying. Dreams again? The salt? She nodded. Same dream, night after night for 3 straight weeks. Salt falling like snow, voices speaking backwards, her father's face dissolving like sugar dropped into water. She stopped mentioning it once the psych unit had started watching her too closely, pen scratching like it was hungry. Kumar's jaw tightened. Half the base is having nightmares, he muttered. The other half just stopped sleeping entirely. Before Tanaka could answer, her voice cut through the darkness like a blade. Tanaka, Kumar, Sergeant First Class Arasco. His tone didn't allow questions, though. Patrol in 20, full kit. Tanaka blinked. This early? Kumar checked his watch. 0440 hours. Well, Araskov's jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. Yeah, Shepard team missed their check-in. That alone made the cold feel sharper. What? Shepard team doesn't miss check-ins, Tanaka said. Arasko nodded once. Last transmission mentioned some kind of mineral deposit, white crystals. Salt. Probably nothing he'd wanted to say, but Shepard team didn't miss check-ins. Shepard team was led by Staff Sergeant Park Jin-woo, grandson of a Korean war vet, a man who ran patrols like clockwork. So if Park went silent, something was wrong. In the ready room, Tanaka geared up with 8 others. Private Jones, barely 19, still calling his wife every day despite the 13-hour difference. Specialist Rodriguez, who kept his daughter's drawings taped inside his helmet like armor. Corporal Nazarov, the Kazakh translator, who knew these mountains the way a wolf knew its territory. And then Lieutenant Colonel Raza entered. His Pakistani accent was clipped tight with urgency. Right, listen up. The room stilled. Shepard team's last position was grid 831-245. Standard search pattern, sweep and recover. He hesitated then and added, But, there's something else. He pulled up a satellite image on the briefing screen. A white starburst stained the ground, spreading out across 50 meters. Perfect. Deliberate, even. Geological says it's salt, Raza said carefully, but salt doesn't form like that above ground. He swallowed then. Oh, and it doesn't appear overnight. Private Morrison raised his hand like he was still sitting in a classroom. What about the story, sir? The whole room tightened. Oh, the locals, Morrison pushed. They talk about the White Death. Folklore. Raza answered a little too quickly. Mountain people have stories about everything. But his eyes didn't match his words. And Tanaka felt it then, deep under her ribs. That familiar, crawling certainty. This wasn't about geology, this wasn't folklore. Something had already found them, and it was writing their names in salt. Well, now the only thing that mattered was finding Shepard team. That was the mission, that was the order. But Tanaka had heard the stories too. The Kazakh herders didn't talk aloud, didn't talk often, but when they did, their voices dropped to a whisper like the mountains were listening to them. Valleys where the white powder came, places where animals were found laid out in circles, stiff as statues, places where time didn't behave right, where the air itself felt wrong. She rubbed her father's omamori again, thumb pressing into the worn silk. He'd believed in old protections, old warnings, the kind of things modern men laughed at, right up until they stopped laughing. Right, mount up. Orozco's bark snapped everyone back into motion. 2 vehicles. Tanaka, you're on point. Kumar, Jones with her. Morrison, Rodriguez, Nazarov, you're with me. Combat interval. Eyes open. They loaded into the MRAPs, metal doors slamming shut like coffins sealing. Tanaka caught Kumar scribbling in his battered little journal before he climbed in. Names and dates. God, always names and dates. His grandmother had told him once, forgotten names become forgotten souls. Jones leaned across the aisle, forcing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Hey, Kumar, he said, trying to scrape some humor out of the dirt. What's she cooking you when you get back home? Kumar actually smiled at this. Aloo paratha, he said. Extra butter. Ooh, real food. Jones laughed weakly. Me? I want bacon. Mountains of bacon. His hand then drifted to his wedding ring like it was an anchor. Yeah, Sarah's probably up right now making coffee. Tanaka, though, stayed quiet. There was no one making breakfast for her back home. Not anymore, not since the accident. Not since her father had died while she was halfway across the world wearing a uniform instead of being there where she should have been. The engines of the vehicle growled alive, and the convoy rolled forward, heavy tires biting into the frozen ground. As they passed through base gates, Tanaka's stomach tightened. Something was wrong. The guard tower was empty. Singh and Petrov should have been up there, always were. She grabbed her comms. Orozco, the towers are unmanned. But only static answered for a beat, and then Orozco's voice came back, flat in a way that didn't fit him. They're probably inside. Cold night. Tanaka stared up at the empty tower as it vanished behind them. Well, she knew Singh. He never left his post, never. The convoy pushed out into the dark mountain wilderness. In her pocket, the omamori charm felt colder with every mile, like it was pulling heat straight out of her skin. Her father's voice echoed in memory, soft and grave. When it grows cold, Yuki, that means it's working. It means something is trying to get in. Part 2. 40 minutes later, they found Shepherd Team, or what was left of them. The bodies weren't hidden. They were displayed. 9 soldiers laid out in a perfect circle, faces turned up toward the pale sky, arms spread wide like snow angels frozen mid-motion. White crystals dusted them, thick and gleaming like someone had covered them in funeral salt. In the center was Staff Sergeant Park, cross-legged, head bowed, almost peaceful, like in prayer. Jesus Christ, Jones breathed. Don't move, Tanaka snapped, already lifting her scope, scanning for anything that didn't belong. No one stepped forward, no one breathed too loud. And then Park's head jerked up, and Tanaka's blood went cold. His eyes were gone. They were packed full of salt, glittering in the early morning light. His mouth opened, and crystals poured out, spilling like sand through an hourglass. God, Park's alive, Morrison shouted, and he started to move forward. No, Morrison, no! Too late, he was already running. The second Morrison's boot crossed into the salt circle, he screamed. Not from pain, but from recognition. His eyes rolled back until only white showed. When he spoke, it wasn't his voice. It was his grandmother's. The boundary's thin here, he rasped. Always has been. And then Morrison dropped hard, his body convulsing like the ground had shocked him. "Quick, pull him back," Rasco roared. Rodriguez and Jones grabbed Morrison under the arms and dragged him clear. Where the salt had kissed his boots, the leather was already dissolving, curling away like burned paper. Morrison's eyes flickered between normal and white, like a broken screen losing signal. "Right, perimeter," Rasco ordered. Raz's voice crackled through the comms. "Nobody touches the salt again. Nobody." Tanaka knelt beside Morrison. God, his pulse hammered under her fingers. It was fast and panicked. He was muttering now, English tangled with something else. Something that hurt to hear, like language that wasn't meant for human throats. "Nazarov," Tanaka called. "What's he saying?" The translator leaned in, listening. Then his face drained. It's not any language I know," he whispered. And then, quieter, "But I understand it." His hand shook. He's listing names. People who died here. My God, hundreds. Going back centuries." Kumar was writing like a man possessed, his pen scratching violently across paper. "Look at the formation," he said. "God, this isn't random." And he was right. The salt wasn't just a circle. It was spirals within circles, squares inside spirals, all mathematical, all deliberate, and all alive. And it was spreading, creeping outward like frost crawling across glass. "Hey, we need to call us in," Orasco said. "I've been trying," Raza answered, holding up his radio. "Everything's dead. Comms, GPS, emergency beacon, all dead." Tanaka's charm was so cold now it burned through her glove. She pulled it out instinctively. Everyone stepped back. The silk was crusted with frost. Ice crystals bloomed across it in impossible patterns, like the charm itself was rewriting reality. Then Rodriguez's voice cut sharp through the air. "Movement, 2 o'clock." Tanaka readied her rifle. Through the mist, figures emerged, walking slowly, perfectly synchronized. Shepherd team, all 9 of them standing upright, marching together like puppets on the same string. Salt leaked from their eyes in glittering trails, like tears that didn't belong. "Park," Orasco shouted. "Staff Sergeant Park, report your status." Park tilted his head, bird-like, as if curious. When he spoke, his voice layered over itself, multiple tones coming out of one throat. "Status." But he just smiled. "We're perfect." The others echoed, their mouths moving in unison. "We're complete. We're going home." "Home?" Jones asked, his voice cracking. "Back to base?" Park's smile widened at this, and all 9 of them answered together, one voice through 9 bodies. "No." "Home," Park had said. Not base, not horizon. Home where the salt remembered. Home where everyone was already waiting. Morrison got worse fast. Whatever had touched him wasn't just on him anymore. It was in him. The salt worked under his skin, crystallizing through his veins like white branches spreading through a dying tree. You could see it. God, it was faint and ugly, spidering up his arms, crawling along his throat. But Morrison was smiling. "It doesn't hurt," he kept whispering. God, his voice was soft, almost dreamy. It's like falling asleep, like being led. Tanaka tried the radio again, her hand shaking with cold and something worse. At this time, someone answered. "Horizon Base, this is Colonel Raza. Send immediate backup to grid..." Static. Then, "Tanaka." The voice on the other end stopped her heart. "Yuki, baby, is that you?" It was her father, her dead father. Her throat locked. "Oh, it's cold here," the voice continued, gentle as memory. "But the salt keeps us warm. It tells us stories, shows us the truth about the mountain." Tanaka dropped the radio like it was burning through her gloves. Kumar snatched it up, listened for 2 seconds, and went pale. "It's my grandmother," he whispered. "She's been dead 10 years. One by one, the radio became a grave. Each soldier heard someone they'd buried, parents, siblings, friends lost in other ways, all of them speaking softly about the salt, about coming home, about how death was only a doorway. "It's a trick," Orozco snapped desperately. "Psychological warfare. It has to be." But then Shepherd Team did something that shattered every possible excuse. Without a word, they turned and walked back into the salt circle, lay down in the exact positions where they'd been found, and Park folded himself cross-legged again, head bowed like a monk. And then they died. Tanaka watched through her scope. One moment breathing, the next moment not. There was no gasp, no struggle, just stopping like someone had flicked a switch. 30 seconds later, they stood up again. Park brushed salt from his uniform like dust. "How many times do you think we've done this?" he asked casually. His voice sounded almost bored. "Died and risen. I've lost count." He smiled. Time was funny in the salt. Well, the sun climbed higher in the sky, and the mountain revealed the truth. That white starburst on the satellite image, that had only been the center. Now, in full light, Tanaka saw the spread. Salt formations stretched for kilometers in every direction, hidden under snow and shadow until now. Well, all of it was connected, veins of white running beneath the ground, pulsing with a faint, sick glow. It was a network, a system, alive in ways her brain refused to accept. We need to leave," Tanaka said. "Now!" Well, Orozco was already moving. "Right, mount up. We'll find another route. Contact base for the vehicles." They reached the MRAPs, and the engines wouldn't start. Salt crystals had bloomed from the blocks, delicate and beautiful and just so completely wrong, like frost growing out of metal bones. "Right, on foot," he ordered. "Leave the gear. Speed his life." They formed up, stumbling forward. Morrison sagged behind between Jones and Rodriguez, and behind them, Shepherd Team watched, waving like children at a parade. 2 kilometers out, they found the herd camp, or what was left of it. Yurts arranged in circles, bodies arranged in circles, animals arranged in circles, all of it dusted in salt, preserved like museum pieces. Again, Tanaka swallowed hard. "How long?" she asked Nazarov. He crouched down, examining cloth patterns, stitching, details only locals would notice. "Well, maybe 50 years, he murmured. And then his voice cracked. "But the bodies look fresh, like they died yesterday." Kumar's journal slipped from his numb fingers, and it hit the salt, and the pages began filling themselves, ink forming without his hand, words in his grandmother's handwriting, recipes, prayers, promises, waiting for him. Oh, just follow the salt home. "Don't look," Tanaka snapped, grabbing him. "Don't read it." But Morrison laughed. His change was accelerating. Salt replaced his tears, his sweat, his blood. He was more mineral than man now, but still smiling like a child drifting off. "You can't fight it," Morrison said. It was his grandmother's voice again, crawling out of his throat. "The mountain's been waiting so long, collecting stories, collecting souls. His eyes leaked salt like an hourglass running out. The salt remembers everything. Every death, every life, every moment in between. Rodriguez made the sign of the cross, trembling visibly. What does he want? Morrison turned slowly toward him then. To go home, he whispered. We're all going home. Then they saw the first truly impossible thing. Not strange, not unexplained. Impossible. Down the mountain path, figures were walking toward them. It was a unit. Their unit, all of them. Tanaka lifted her binoculars and saw for herself. Her face, dusted in salt. Moving in perfect synchronization, the same puppet stride as Shepherd Team. Hey, that's us, Jones said stupidly. His voice sounded broken. How is it us? The other team waved. Tanaka's double raised an Omamori charm identical to hers, except it glowed with salt light instead of frost. In Tanaka's hand, the real charm cracked straight down the middle, a sharp, final split. The other Tanaka was getting closer now. Through the glass, Tanaka watched her own face, white and calm and wrong. Her lips moved constantly, whispering words the wind stole away. Come on, we need to move, Orozco ordered, but his voice cracked. They all saw their doubles now. Perfect mirror unit descending toward them. Morrison laughed. More salt than man now. You can't run from yourselves. But they ran anyway, and the retreat became a nightmare of wrong turns and dead ends. Paths they'd memorized led off cliff faces now. GPS units contradicted themselves every time they checked. And the sun slid backwards across the sky, and then jumped forward, then froze at noon for hours, seemingly. Time had snapped like a broken compass. Kumar collapsed first. I can't, he gasped. The names won't stop. He clutched his journal, now writing itself in languages he didn't know. Everyone who ever died on this mountain, they're all here, in the salt. Jones tried calling his wife on the satellite phone then. It connected and she answered, but her voice came out warped, granular. You're already home, baby. A pause then, soft and cruel. You've been home for weeks. Why won't you come inside? One by one, everything betrayed them. Radio spoke with dead voices, weapons jammed with salt crystals. Even their clothes began to stiffen, threads turning mineral, fabric becoming stone. They found shelter in a herder's cave, one that had been abandoned decades ago, or maybe just yesterday. Time didn't mean anything anymore. Raza stood in the dark, trying to force command into his voice. Listen, we're experiencing some kind of chemical weapon, hallucinogen. The salt is exactly what it appears to be, Morrison interrupted gently, and his smile widened, and the cave felt suddenly very, very small. Morrison definitely wasn't Morrison anymore. Not really. His change was completed, finished. Skin gone pale as carved marble, smooth and bloodless, eyes burning like cold stars. And he looked less like a man and more like a memory the mountain had decided to keep. God, every death, every life, every moment, crystallized, preserved, filed away forever. What? This is insane, Rodriguez spat, his voice shaking. Morrison tilted his head, almost amused. Is it? His smile was not one that belonged on a human face. God, how many times have you been here, Rodriguez? How many times have we had this exact conversation? Rodriguez opened his mouth and then stopped. His expression emptied and then twisted into horror. I remember. His breath came sharp. We've done this before, all of it, the patrol. fighting shepherd team running. He grabbed Tanaka's arm hard enough to hurt. You shot me 3 loops ago when I tried to walk into the salt. Tanaka's hand snapped instinctively to her sidearm. She didn't remember firing at Rodriguez, but the pistol felt warm, recently used, and she could smell it. Cordites, gunpowder, the truth. How many times? She demanded, staring at Morrison. How many loops? Morrison's head leaned slightly, like he was listening to music no one else could hear. Does it matter? Tanaka's voice dropped. Well, it matters to me. Morrison's tone softened. It was almost kind. Once you know, you can't unknow. The salt remembers, the salt preserves. Then his smile widened. The salt brings you home. Kumar was the one who found it first, scratched into the cave wall beneath layers of grime and time, names, dates, units, a graveyard written in inkless desperation. Russian detachments, British patrols, local forces, all of them ending the same way. Found the White Valley. Lost to the White Valley. But one entry stopped Tanaka's blood cold. Corporal Yuki Tanaka, 2024, Loop 847. Her service number, her handwriting, her apology carved into the stone. I'm sorry, Dad. Then her knees almost buckled. That's not possible, she whispered. I've never been here before. Morrison's voice came gently then, like someone correcting a child. You have. He stepped closer, salt light catching on his skin. We all have. The mountain calls and we answer. We die, we rise, we forget. His eyes glittered then, until the salt helps us to remember. Tanaka looked down at the Omamori charm in her hand. It fully split with a final, dry crack. Not a break, an opening. Inside wasn't silk or prayer. It was salt, crystallized at the core. Not protection now, just part of it. Morrison watched her realization settle. Your father knew, he said. Tanaka's throat tightened. No. Morrison's voice stayed calm. Why do you think he gave you a charm filled with mountain salt? Tanaka shook her head, but the words kept coming. He was here too, 1987, military advisor. Then his smile sharpened. Vanished for 3 weeks, came back changed. God, Tanaka wanted to deny it, but memories surfaced like bodies under ice. Her father's obsession with preservation, jars of salt samples lining shelves, the way he'd made a promise, join the military, request mountain deployments, carry the charm always. Morrison's voice dropped into something almost reverent. He sent you here to finish what he started. Tanaka's stomach turned, to finally go home. Outside the cave mouth, shadows shifted. The other them had arrived. Part 3. Tanaka saw her double now, clearly. Not a copy, not a hallucination, no, it was her. A version that had stopped fighting, a version from 3 loops ago, or 30, or 300. All the versions that had said yes, all the versions that had surrendered. I have something to show you, Morrison murmured. He placed his salt-white palm against the cave wall. The stone shivered and then became transparent. Tanaka's breath caught in her throat. Well, the mountain was hollow. Inside was a vast cathedral of salt crystals, an endless cavern spiraling down into the earth. Each crystal held a person. Thousands, millions maybe, perfectly preserved. Their faces calm, their bodies arranged like an infinite funeral hymn, descending forever, and at the center, something pulsed, a shape that might have been a heart, might have been a star, might have been the first thing that ever died and refused to accept it. "The mountain isn't just collecting us," Morrison said softly. "It's building something. A monument to memory." Oh, a place where death wasn't an ending, a place where everyone lost was waiting. Well, Tanaka's eye scanned the formation, and then she saw him. Her father. Well, not deep inside, near the surface, recent. His face exactly as she remembered. His lips moved soundlessly, mouthing her name. Morrison's voice slid in behind her like a knife. "All you have to do is stop fighting." He leaned closer then. "Let the salt in. Join your father." His smile was endless now. "Join us. Go home." It was Jones who broke first. "Sarah." And he stumbled toward the crystal wall where a woman's figure beckoned. His voice cracked open like glass. "Baby, is that you?" Well, Orozco lunged, grabbing him, but Jones fought back with desperate strength. "Look, she's right there. She's waiting for me. I can save her. She's not dead." "Oh, she isn't dead," Orozco shouted, shaking him hard. "Your wife isn't dead." Well, Jones froze, and his face collapsed into ruin. "But I can see her." His voice was small now. "She's calling me." Kumar spoke quietly, like a man reading the answer off a tombstone. "The salt shows you what you want most." Kumar had stopped fighting the journal, and at some point he'd just let it happen. Page after page filled itself beneath his shaking hands, ink crawling like veins across the paper. Names, promises, things you'd burn your whole life down for, real or not. It didn't matter anymore. Rodriguez had found his daughter in the crystal. Not dead, not alive either. A version of her trapped forever, small, reaching for him, needing him. She'd never grow up, never walk away, never stop calling him Dad. Well, even Orozco wavered. He saw his brother, the one who died in Afghanistan. He was whole again, laughing, young again. Oh, the kind of sight that made your knees buckle. But Tanaka stared at her father and saw what the others couldn't, that his eyes were empty. Whatever the salt did preserve, it wasn't the person. Just the outline, the shape, a memory stuffed into a crystal coffin. "It's not them," she said, her voice rough. "It's just the salt pretending." Morrison smiled, sad and patient. "Does it matter if it feels real?" he asked softly. "If it fills the hole they left, what's the difference?" Tanaka's jaw tightened once more. "Well, the difference is choice," she said. "The difference is truth." And then her double stepped into the cave. God, up close, Tanaka couldn't deny it. Every scar in the right place, every callus, every imperfection mirrored perfectly. But the eyes were salt white, blank. And then she smiled, and the crystals spilled from her lips like broken teeth. "I remember you," the other Tanaka said. Well, her voice was hers, but hollowed out somehow. "Yeah, you're the version that keeps saying no, the one that keeps dragging us through this again and again." Her head tilted. "Why won't you just let us rest?" "Because rest isn't living," Tanaka snapped. Her double gestured around them, at the terrified soldiers, the crystal tombs, the endless spiral of surrender and repeat. "Neither is this." Oh, her voice sharpened then. "How many times will you watch them die? How many times will you fail to save anyone?" She spread her hands, the salt dust drifting down. Oh, the salt is mercy, the salt is peace. Tanaka felt the broken charm cutting into her palm now. Her father's last gift. His trap, his love. And suddenly she understood. The loops weren't the salt's doing. They were hers. Every time she refused to surrender, reality reset. It gave her another chance to save them, another chance to fail. 847 times, her double whispered. You've led them to death 847 times. And her smile widened. When will it be enough? Tanaka's answer rose from somewhere deeper than thought. Never. Never, because giving up meant admitting her father had been right, that preservation was better than living, that memory was enough. She was her father's daughter, but she didn't have to be his echo. Tanaka raised her rifle, not at her double, no, at the crystal wall, at the preserved thousands, at her father's waiting face. No! Morrison lunged for her, but Kumar and Rodriguez grabbed him, holding him back. And then Tanaka fired. The rounds hit salt and did nothing. Of course, they did nothing. You couldn't kill something that was already dead. But the sound, the refusal, the choice. Something cracked, but not the wall. The loop. The crack spread outward from that single act of defiance. Not through crystal, but through the air itself. Reality stuttered. For one heartbeat, Tanaka saw them all. All 847 loops layered on top of each other. Every death, every choice, every failure, existing at once. Her double screamed. It was a sound like glass shattering. All their double screamed. The harmonized agony ripped through the illusion like a blade. Oh, what did you do? Morrison reached for her, his salt skin beginning to flake, to crumble, to fall away. Tanaka stared at him, breathing hard. I remembered something, she said. Something real, not the loop's memory. Her voice shook. My father didn't send me here. The truth hit like ice water. I came looking for him. Her father hadn't died in an accident. He hadn't been taken by fate. No, he had disappeared on deployment. This deployment. The charm wasn't his trap. It was her clue, a fragment of salt from his last mission, blessed and wrapped in silk because she couldn't let go. Oh, she'd falsified orders, manipulated assignments, spent 3 years carving a path to this exact base. Not because the salt had called to her, but because she refused to leave him behind. 847 times, she whispered, her voice breaking. I've been looking for him 847 times. Now the whole mountain shuddered, and deep inside the crystal spiral something ancient stirred. The first thing that had ever died and refused to accept it. The heart of the salt, the beginning of preservation. And it was afraid. Kumar's eyes widened first, understanding hitting him like a bullet. Hey, the loops aren't the salt's prison, he said hoarsely. They're yours. He swallowed hard. You created them by refusing both choices. Then his voice dropped. You won't join the salt, and you won't leave without your father. Then the journal in Kumar's hands ignited. Not a salt fire, not some pale, unnatural glow. No, real flames, orange, hot, and alive. The paper curled and blackened, the heat biting the air. The names didn't vanish, they changed. Lists became stories, deaths became lives, endings became something else. Rodriguez stared at the burning pages, his voice low, not accusing, almost in awe. Every loop you drag us into. He swallowed then. Well, no, every loop we follow you. His eyes met Tanaka's. God, 800 times we've died for your obsession. I'm sorry, Tanaka started, but Jones cut her off, sharp and certain. No, no. He stepped forward, his jaw set. No, we chose to follow. And his voice didn't shake. Every loop, every knowing part of us always knows. And he looked at the others. And we still choose it. His hand tightened into a fist then. Well, that's what family does. Not unit cohesion, not military doctrine. Something deeper. The loops had forged it. 800 shared deaths, 800 acts of faith. Outside, the salt doubles were coming apart, perfect bodies unraveling into dust, unable to hold shape without Tanaka's belief feeding the cycle. But Morrison wasn't disintegrating. He was changing. His skin had lost its marble sheen. Color returned. His breath hitched. Oh, God! His voice was human again, raw and terrified. I can feel it. The salt. He trembled then. It's not evil. It's not good. His eyes filled with tears. Real tears, not crystals. It's just, lonely. Through the transparent wall, the preserved thousands began to stir. Not alive, not undead, just aware and waiting. They'd waited so long for someone to see them as more than echoes trapped in mineral. Orozco raised his weapon instinctively, and Tanaka lowered hers. Whatever's about to happen, she said quietly, no more fighting. Then she walked to the crystal wall, placed her palm where her father's image waited. Dad? Her voice broke. I know you're not in there, not really. And she swallowed hard. But the memory is. The love is. Her fingers pressed against cold crystal. That's what the soul preserves, isn't it? Not the person, not the connection. The heart of the mountain pulsed deep below now. Something that had been holding its breath for millennia finally exhaled. And the cave filled with light. Not the harsh salt glow. Something warmer. Almost human. The preserved thousands didn't rise to attack. They didn't beckon. They were saying goodbye. Tanaka saw them clearly now. Not monsters, not copies. Imprints. Final moments crystallized into mineral memory. Part 4. The Kazakh herders who found the valley in a blizzard and chose preservation over freezing. The Soviet unit that stumbled onto something impossible and decided oblivion was worse than transformation. Shepherd team, touching the salt, seeing lost brothers waiting. All of them had chosen the salt in moments of unbearable grief, and the salt in its vast and terrible compassion had said yes. Tanaka's breath caught. But I didn't lose him. The realization hit like a knife. I refused to lose him. That was different. That was why the loops kept breaking. Her father's image smiled. Not the puppet smile of the salt. The crooked grin she remembered from birthdays and bedtime stories. One last gift of memory before the preservation ended. Morrison stood fully human now, though marked forever by what he'd been. Well, he understood. You can't preserve something that won't admit it's gone, he said softly. And he looked at Tanaka. You've been keeping the salt here as much as it's been keeping you. Raza's voice came in tight. So, how do we end it? Well, Tanaka already knew, had always known. The broken chime in her hand wasn't a key, it wasn't a weapon. It was a choice. We remember them, she said. Not preserve, not forget. Her voice steadied. Remember the real ones. Well, not perfect versions. No, the flaws, the fights, the failures, alongside the love. She thought of her father, not the hero she'd built in her mind, but the man who forgot birthdays, who drank too much after hard deployments, who loved her imperfectly but truly. A man who had died human, not transcendent. Well, At this, the crystal wall began to crack, but not violently, gently like ice softening in spring. And the preserved thousands didn't scream, didn't resist. They sighed. A release held too long. The heart of the mountain, that first refusal, that original no to ending, spoke not in words but in feelings. It had been a parent once, had lost a child to winter and wolves, had found the salt, had made a bargain, preservation at any cost. And so for 10,000 years it had collected the grieving, built a monument to memory, created a place where loss couldn't touch you. But memories weren't meant to be monuments. They weren't meant to be carried. Morrison translated the feeling, his voice shaking. It's tired. It wants to let go. But someone has to carry the stories. Kumar held up his journal, now filled with 10,000 years of names and lives. Well, I can carry some, he whispered. Jones nodded. We all can. His voice was fierce now. That's what we do. Carry our dead, not forget them. Not preserve them, carry them. Now the salt began to fall like snow. Not burning crystals, not crawling words, just mineral returning to earth. With each flake a story ended, each grain a choice finally made. Tanaka's father's image reached through the dissolving wall, not to pull her in, to push something out. It was a leather journal, salt-stained but intact, real. It was his journal, his last mission, his words. Tanaka opened it with shaking hands. Well, the final entry was short. Yuki, my daughter, the mountain offers forever, but you taught me tomorrow is enough. I choose the sunrise even if I don't see it. I choose the ending. Now, don't come looking. Come living. Dad. Well, Tanaka's breath shattered. He'd refused the salt, died human in the snow rather than accept preservation. The salt had kept his journal, waiting, not for someone to join the echo, but for someone to claim the story. Tanaka broke then, not quietly, not politely. No, she wept like something inside her had finally been ripped open. Real tears, hot, salt-free, burning down her face. 847 loops of denial collapsed all at once, like a dam giving way after years of pressure. Her unit closed in around her, not waiting for commands, not asking what came next. Just there, hands on shoulders, a silent presence. The family forged in repeated death, standing together in the first true moment of being alive. When they left the cave, the world outside looked wrong in the simplest way. It was normal. The salt formations were gone. The impossible angles, the crystalline cathedral, the geometry that shouldn't exist, erased like a bad dream burned out by daylight. Shepherd team lay where they'd first been found. But this time there was no preservation, no frozen echo, just bodies, truly dead. Finally finished, at peace. And the radios crackled. Oh, real static, real signal. The GPS blinked back to life. Time moved forward again, not looping, not stuttering, just marching in single, brutal, precarious seconds. Horizon Base to Search Team. Report status. Orozco lifted the radio, his voice steady. Search Team reporting. We found Shepherd. KIA. Avalanche. Bringing them home. It was a lie, but it was kindness. Some truths weren't meant for paperwork. The sun rose over the clean mountain now. No salt, no loops, no forever, just the brutal, beautiful reality of a world where things ended. They loaded Shepherd team with honor, hands careful, movements respectful. They spoke words over the herder camp they'd found. Now nothing but ancient bones instead of salt statues. Kumar filled a page, then another, with every name he could remember. A living record, not a crystal monument. As they drove back to base, Tanaka held her father's journal in both hands. It wasn't preserved. It wasn't perfect. It was water-damaged, faded, but as real as blood. Morrison's voice came low, carrying what all of them were thinking. Hey, what do we do now? Tanaka stared out at the passing whites. We live, she said. Just a couple of words, heavy with finality. Remember? Mourn, heal. You know, the human things. Rodriguez hesitated. Hey, will it come back? The salt. Tanaka thought of the mountain's heart, that first grieving parent finally allowed to rest, 10,000 years of refusal softening into acceptance. It's, gone home, she said. Well, not home as in preservation, home as in ending, the place all things return to. They reached Horizon Base as full dawn painted the peaks gold. The guards at the gate looked normal, tired, human, bored. Singh stood at his post complaining about the cold. Petrov was stealing his coffee. Yes, everything exactly as it should be. Messy, imperfect, temporary. In her quarters, Tanaka placed 2 items on her desk. Her father's journal and the broken charm. The journal she would read slowly, letting herself know him as he truly was. Not as a myth, nor as a monument, just as a man. The charm she would bury, its purpose finished now, its curse complete. She picked up her pen and began to write. Mission report. Corporal Yuki Tanaka. Search and recovery operation. Shepherd team located and retrieved. Unusual mineral formations in the area proved unstable. Recommend marking the valley as hazardous. And then, after a pause, she added, personal note. Some things are meant to be lost. Some searches are meant to fail. The victory is in the returning. Outside her window, snow began to fall. Regular snow, cold, white, and temporary. Melting the moment it touched warm earth. It was beautiful because it didn't last. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, she didn't dream of salt. 6 months later, Kumar published a book, Names from the Mountain, an oral history of the forgotten. Critics called it fiction. Readers called it necessary. Jones had another child and named her Hope. Morrison became a counselor, specializing in complicated grief. Rodriguez went home early, hugged his daughter, and let her grow up. Orozco retired, opened a restaurant, served soup to anyone who looked lost. Raza stayed military but changed his focus, started a program for families of the missing, because sometimes not knowing was the heaviest weight of all. And as for Tanaka, Tanaka learned to say goodbye. The last image the world ever saw was security footage from FOB Horizon. 03:33 hours. A woman in uniform standing alone in the snow, releasing white powder from a broken charm into the wind. It might have been salt, might have been ash, might have been memory made manifest, but it was definitely letting go. And that timestamp never changed. 3:33. The moment between holding on and moving forward. The eternal now that chose tomorrow. Some said on cold nights you could still see her there. Not a ghost, not preserved. Just the echo of a choice reminding anyone willing to listen that love means letting go. Memory means carrying forward, and sometimes the bravest thing in the world is admitting the search is over. The salt remembered, but we were the ones who chose what to preserve. Well, there you go, my dear friends. Kind of a military-inspired story. Wasn't going where I thought it would go when I started reading it, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that one. Thoughts, feelings, anything else you want to say in the comment section below the video. And as always, I will do my best to join in the conversation. Now, big thank you here to everyone who's commented on recent videos. I've been sort of thinking about how things are going and, keeping doing this. I mean, I still love doing it. I still love reading stories for you all. And as long as you people who out there are appreciating it and wanting more, I will keep going. It's always been a hobby, but, sometimes keeping a hobby going can be a tricky thing in itself. Anyway, thank you very much for all the kind words and the support you've been showing me. Long may it continue. Well, that's enough for one evening. I'll be back again with a podcast tomorrow night, back here on Wednesday evening with something else. Till then, my dear friends, just remember it's just a story and you will sleep well, yeah? Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.